Welcome, students. Today we will talk about the emergence of Standard English in England. In our last class, we already saw that uh, during Middle English period there were five different dialects, and when English began to re-emerge and it re-established itself to the previous position, how difficult it was for the authorities, all the writers, to decide which one of those five dialects is to be chosen as standard one. So the problem was solved in the course of time, and different factors contributed to the emergence of a standard form of English, a written form of English. Though it is obvious that still in even in educated speech there were variations in accordance with the region. Means there were dialectal differences in English, and today since it is an international language, the concept of standard English has become largely relative, you can say. But at that time it was a problem since it was a language largely confined to England, and there as well it was struggling to establish itself to the official position. And so it is obvious that we will be asked certain questions related to this topic, and that's why I'm discussing this topic in a separate class. So the main question that may be asked here is the first one: which dialect became standard English? The answer is easy. You can say East Midland dialect, or to be precise, the dialect spoken in and around London, you can say. Then the next question will be asked: what factors contributed to the emergence of this East Midland dialect as standard form? Or you can say, what were the causes that led to the emergence of East Midland dialect as the standard form? So we have to talk about the factors that contributed to the emergence of East Midland dialect or London dialect as standard English. There are many factors. The first and the most important among them being the numerical strength of East Midland dialect. The cause of its numerical strength was the increasing importance of London as capital city. So, going by the precedence that the dialect of Paris became the standard French language, and across continents such developments were there. So the writers, the authorities decided in favor of London dialect, East Midland dialect. Next factor is also related to this East Midland dialect. All the factors contribute towards the development of London dialect as the standard form. It is because at that time there were five different dialects spoken in these regions. Northern dialects in northern part of England, southern dialects in southern part of England. This dialect was supposed to be the most radical one, and this was the most conservative one, and by virtue of its being in the middle region, it acted as a modifier or a mediator between these two dialects. This factor also contributed in its favor. East Midland dialect means London dialect. That was another reason. Again, London became the capital and the main trading center. We have already talked about it. Main trading center. All the commercial activities were going on around, in and around London. So people from different parts of country speaking different dialect continuously came to London, and they, in the course of their communication with the people of London, inhabitants of London, they just left their traces of dialect there, and they also carried some of the traces of London dialect to their uh, regions. As such, gradually London became a force that leveled the differences between different dialects to a certain extent, and in this course London dialect became cosmopolitan, you can say, because the people belonging to different regions of the country were able to comprehend London. Means London dialect was not strange, unusual for them, while the people speaking northern dialect felt uncomfortable with the dialect of southern region, but that was not the case with London dialect. So this was one another factor. Again, during that time, Oxford and Cambridge universities got established, and universities were becoming uh, center of education. They were fast replacing churches and monasteries as the center of education, though it finally uh, became the fashion after the devastation of monasteries during the reign of Henry VIII, but the process had already begun at that time. So the establishment of the universities like Cambridge and Oxford were also around the region of London, and so the all the educational activities were going on there, and those two main center of education were in and around the area of London. So they also contributed in their own way towards in favor of London dialect, you can say, and it emerged as the standard English, a standard form of English. It began to be used as a written form of English. When we talk about the standard English or any standard language, we generally refer to that language in its written form, because in our earlier classes we have time and again talked about it, that a spoken language is bound to vary across regions, along social lines, and all those factors. But in written form, the A standard is maintained. A kind of restraint functions there. A kind of restraining influence is there while we use a language in written form. So a written language becomes standard, you can say. Main trading center, London was the main trading center. Then the establishment of Cambridge and Oxford universities also contributed to the emergence of London dialect as the main dialect of England. Then finally, Chaucer started his literary career, and he originally belonged to Kentish region and his original language was Kentish. But after much deliberation, he decided in favor of London dialect and wrote his works in that language. So he also contributed in the emergence of contributed in favor of London English, and London English finally emerged as a standard form of language. Though many modern scholars speak against Chaucer and they just say that English, Chaucer's language vastly differed from the language used in court at that period, during that period. It may be the case, but obvious fact is that language of court and language of literature is bound to vary. Chaucer must have polished the London dialect to suit his purposes, as Dante did with the language of Italy, the vernacular of that region, to suit his purpose. Dante wrote Divina Commedia in vernacular language, but he worked hard to make that language literary. And same might have been with the Chaucer, with the language of Chaucer, you can say. He rendered a different kind of distinctive kind of charm to the language of London to make it a literary language. So for that difference, on account of that difference between the language of Chaucer and the language of court at that period, we cannot say that Chaucer did not contribute to the emergence of standard English. So we can argue in favor of Chaucer in that way, you can say. All these factors, you can say, collectively contributed to the emergence of London English. But it will be a mistake to say, it will be a mistake to assert that there was a complete uniformity in the language of England overnight. Of course, out of all these factors, the language that emerged finally is generally referred to as Standard English or RP, received pronunciation. But after Renaissance, we find Swift and his contemporaries appealing to the authorities to make English uniform and pure. They were also seen appealing to the writers, their contemporary writers, not to use foreign words and stick to the purity of the language, to make English a chaste language. So all these things, in a way, indicate towards the dilution of the idea of standard English. In fact, that was the case as well, because after Renaissance, English traveled across the world with the spread of colonialism. And when it reached Australia, it came to India, it came to African countries, Canada, America, and different regions of the world, the people of those regions contributed in their own way to the development of English language. So different words made their way into English language, and the pronunciation of different words began to vary across the regions. The same word pronounced in America can be pronounced differently in India, can be pronounced still differently in Australia and African countries. So this is quite natural, and on that ground, we cannot question the standardization of a language in that particular country. For example, American English may be different from British English, but American English is as much standard for American people, and it serves their purpose of mutual intelligibility. So it cannot be called substandard with respect to British English, and it cannot be judged on the parameters of British English. Though, of course, there must have certain grammatical concept, and those concepts should be standard, and those standards should be followed globally. But apart from those few concepts, grammatical concepts or linguistic ideas, a language is free to evolve in uh, the reason it is used. If Indian people call a godown and not a warehouse, it is more convenient for them, and for that reason we cannot call Indian English substandard. So finally we can say that the idea of a standard English in today's context is much diluted, and it has become relative. British English is standard for them, American English is standard for American people, and Indian English is standard for us. So this idea of standard English should not be rigidly followed in today's context. In our next lecture, we will see how English spread to different regions of the world, and today it has become the most important language across the world. It is spoken in most of the countries, almost all of the countries, in different uh, at different level. It is used at different status in almost all of the countries at different levels. So we will discuss all these things in our subsequent lectures. But for now, you must stick to the idea that the concept of a standard English came only because English became divided into 5 different dialects during the period of Middle English, and by achieving a kind of uniformity, that problem was solved during that period, and that was all that should have been achieved. Beyond a limit, we cannot achieve uniformity in any language, because a language is living, it is bound to change according to the change in region, the change in social class, the change in the level of education of the people speaking that language. So all these factors continuously contribute, and so language continuously changes. So this is not a big thing. That's all for today, and I hope you enjoyed the lecture. So thank you.